I have no idea what this is, which is why it's so surprising. By the way, you and Paul Smith Goodson should do something together. You always come up with the most creative things. I always know when it's Paul Smith Goodson's, because he's always creative in what he does. So, hot or not, Kyte Baby return to office.
Kyte Baby. Okay, so I'm jumping on a big bandwagon here. I'm kind of surprised you haven't heard about it, but it's all over like
My youngest is 21. You
well, yeah,
know,
this isn't it's not a baby thing. Although, you know what, probably be more likely to hear about it if you had a child who had a baby or it's kind of in that,
okay.
that area. So
I thought
Kyte
it was a
Baby,
rapper at first. I just want to let you know.
you
Okay.
what?
I thought it was I thought it was a rapper,
Oh.
Kyte Baby. Like it seemed to be like a cool name
Yes.
for a rapper or
A
something.
rapper. That's funny. No. So Kyte Baby is a baby sleepwear brand. And this is a total social media bandwagon here, but it's because there are so many little lessons to be learned here. But what happened is there was an adopted mom who was denied the option to work remotely when her newborn was was in the NICU. She went on social media, on TikTok. She told what happened. The CEO of the company went on with a canned script response, got completely blasted. So now this cult following that Kyte Baby had has just completely turned against them. So I think this is really a story in one, return to office policies, parental leave policies, brand and reputation management. I mean, there's so much to this story other than it's just this whole overly hyped TikTok and Instagram story phenomenon. But I mean, it's been on the Today Show. It's like really turned into a big thing. It shows the power of kind of the individual on these social media platforms when they feel like they've been wronged and they can get their story out there. But the reality is that companies have to back up their return to office policies with both data and reasoning. This was just the CEO has to make a call on this. She said no. She said that her job function was required to be in the office, and there wasn't actually any thought put behind the fact that she had a newborn baby in the NICU,
Yeah.
and the fact that this is a baby sleepwear brand. So it's just as important to align your policies with your company values, not just be a decent human. So now, how does this Kyte Baby, the rapper, recover? I mean, you and I have both been through many crises with not necessarily our clients, but in past jobs, and brand management and reputation it's a hard thing to recover in a pre-social media world. Now people take to social media. Influencers can act like press. Press, anybody can have a platform basically. So really it's like it's time for them to figure out not just to hop on TikTok to make an apology, but actually create what your policy is and make that known. Shouldn't have made the mistake in the first place, but lesson learned to companies, right? Your leave policies for adoptive moms versus, or any parent, I shouldn't even say moms, it should be parents, need to be established. But now they have to, with social media, now they've got to be, kind of taking this whole sentiment analysis across all of these different channels. And so that's where things like HubSpot come in. You got to like now creep over. It's no longer where you've got a social media manager who combs through Twitter or X and finds the angry customers. So there are now massive tools that will find brand sentiment and sentiment analysis online and help companies to repair their reputation. So they've got it in for them. So I'm going to say they are not hot, and they need some help with their reputation management. And companies need to pay attention.
No, I like that. And I always learn something when I do a podcast here on stuff that some of it's like, I would never run across that on my own. But I'm sure one of my kids, well, none of my kids have babies yet. But the RTO thing, I got you.
Yeah.
power to the people and what you can do. What are the challenges that I always wonder about if you air it out on social media and a prospective employer comes across it? Are they going to be more likely to hire you if you fried the company,
Yeah.
or less likely? I'm old school. I'm old. I would say yes, less likely to hire if you have publicly eviscerated a prior employer.
I think there's definitely something that people have to keep in mind on things like that. Like, people are going to look at that. If you do that to somebody once, there's a pretty probably likelihood you're going to kind of air your dirty laundry out more than once, and not likely that same scenario is going to happen, but that type of person may be more likely to do something like that, and that could go against them. In this situation, I'm sure she's going to end up getting a job offer from a company that does it for the publicity, and she has gotten her job offered back to her, which she has declined. So I'm sure there's a lawsuit planned. But I mean, it's just a terrible thing for her to have to deal with that on top of her baby being in the NICU. But again, that's why companies need policies, and that's why people need to be really clear about where
Yeah.
and when they establish these return to office policies, and why. Look at the data and find the reasoning behind it, and make the decision based on that. But
Well, I feel like nobody is doing, forcing people to come in everybody all the time.
right.
Is I never saw that as a possibility, and it's really not. And I think that getting people in person together for the right reasons still, it's so funny. I mean, 2019, I still get back to my hypothesis, and which is different jobs, different situations, different life stage, and there will be. Remember, during the pandemic, everybody was saying we're never going back in, right? And then,
Yeah.
I basically said, no, we actually are. And here are the reasons, or here would be the type of technologies and cultural changes that we would have to have for that to work. And everybody kind of forgets that most salespeople and most customer service people and a lot of communications experts, they were already working remote for like 10 years, right?
Mhm.
But governments, as an example, never did any of this. But there's I stand by my early 2019 hypothesis. It played out exactly as I thought that it would. And this is not just me patting me on the back, but it was so crystal clear. To get there, we need better tools, and we might have to have a complete generational overhaul. I think there's about 10 years of digital transformation in the public sector that has to happen. Like, why do we even need a DMV other than for getting a driver test?
Mhm.
I mean, I don't understand. We can take a picture. We can even, there are remote fingerprint places if and I did that for my CCL. So you don't have to come in and do a lot of the stuff that we do.
Yeah, you're right. It is about the tools and the digital transformation. And I do think actually we'll see this year, this year for sure, and in the next couple of years, the tools shifting more towards the remote worker and less towards trying to draw people back into the office. I think last year we saw so much about like these tools that are making the workspace better, like um, the boardroom cameras and all of that. And a lot of people are saying, well, that's great, but what about the experience for the worker at home? And now you see companies like HP really concentrating on what's happening on the PC, Dell doing the same. What's happening for the worker at home? Let's maximize that device so that they're doing their best work at home as well as at the office.